What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and welcome back to Budget Tubing. Now, today's video is not actually a review of the Behringer Xenix Q1202 that you see before you. Instead, it's more of a follow-up to my review of the Teyun A4, because in that video, I mentioned how you weren't able to use the mixer to listen to your PC's audio without sending it to your recording software of choice. And that's an issue shared by pretty much every mixer that doesn't have a feature called Mix Minus, with the exception of the Phoenix Pro PTX10 that I reviewed a while back, and maybe a few other mixers I don't currently know about. As for what Mix Minus is, well, it's a feature that allows you to choose which of your inputs gets sent to your main recording mix. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen it in any USB mixer that sells for under $300, which is a bit more than a lot of people want to spend on a single piece of equipment when they're first starting out in content creation. As for why I'm using this particular mixer in this video, well, first off, it's the most well-known model of mixer that I own. It also happens to be the most expensive, and yet, sadly, it is also missing Mix Minus. However, in the aforementioned Teyun A4 video, I did talk about the fact that I have a little workaround that allows me to listen to both my PC's audio and my microphone's audio without recording it. And the best part is, it's not going to cost you an extra couple $100. Let me zoom in and show you how this works. My solution is to actually use a second mixer. But fortunately, we're not trying to do anything fancy here, so it doesn't have to be this advanced or this expensive. The style of mixer I use for this task is called a line mixer, and the line mixer that I personally use is the Fifine N5. And I know some of you are probably wondering why I'm not using the Behringer Micromix MX400 for this task, since it would allow me to at least look like I have a sense of brand loyalty, and there's actually a good reason for that. The MX400 is pretty much a Behringer device in name only, because I've seen several other companies use the MX400 name on their own line mixers, and I'm about 90% certain inside each of those mixers are the exact same guts, and in at least one case, the shell was identical, they just removed the Behringer name. Though most importantly, each and every one of those line mixers is mono. And that's not what we want, especially if the reason we want to listen to our PC audio is that we're gaming. The Fifine N5, on the other hand, is a stereo line mixer, and to be perfectly honest, it's one of the only stereo line mixers I've come across. Even better, it's actually cheaper than the Behringer MX400, at least as of the recording of this video. The MX400 is $24, whereas the N5 is only $22. The only other mini mixer I was able to come across with this form factor and stereo audio is going to set you back about $50, and it doesn't use the nice little 1/4 inch jacks we have here. Instead, it uses left and right coaxial interconnects, also known as RCA jacks, to get the job done, and that's not as convenient. And before I go any further, while we're still sort of on the topic of model numbers, do not get the Fifine N6 for this project, because while they look identical at a glance and the common logic is a higher model number means a better product, in this case, what you're going to end up getting is a splitter and not a mixer. It's basically the opposite of what we have here. Of course, you don't just need two mixers to get the job done. You're going to need the appropriate cables and one more thing. And that one more thing is a ground loop isolator. Setting things up is extremely simple. First, run a cable from the headphone output on your main mixer into input number 1 on your line mixer. Next, connect your PC's audio output to input number 2 on your line mixer, making sure to run it through the ground loop isolator first. And last but not least, plug your headphones into the audio output on the line mixer. And that's really all there is to it. With this setup, you can monitor both your microphone and PC audio without having to worry about cross-contaminating your recording, even if your mixer doesn't have Mix Minus. And I know a few of you out there are wondering if the ground loop isolator is necessary, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it's practically mandatory, because not only are you connecting your PC sound card to your line mixer, you're also connecting your USB mixer to your line mixer and then the USB mixer back to your computer. And that is a perfect example of a ground loop. Without the isolator, the audio going into your headphones is going to be squealing like a banshee, and something tells me you don't want to deal with that. But don't worry, ground loop isolators aren't actually that expensive. This model right here will cost you about $8 to $15 depending on where you pick it up, and you don't need one that chunky. That just happens to be the one that I've had for a few years now, and I know for a fact that it works perfectly in this setup. There are also models that are just slightly larger than a AA battery and use a 3.5mm connection, and those will cost you about the same amount. However, no matter where you buy your ground loop isolator, you're still only spending about $30 total on this mix minus alternative. And that's a nice little stopgap for people who aren't quite ready to upgrade their main mixer for one that costs at least $300. And better yet, it has such a tiny footprint, so it's not going to be that hard to make room for it in your recording setup. If you want to know where you can pick up Fi-Fine N5 or a ground loop isolator, I'm going to go ahead and throw some Amazon affiliate links down in the description below. And until next time, this is your guy, Cly, signing off.